Part 42. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 411. Now he finally understands that it is true that those heroes feel sad about beauty and get angry because of beauty. Now he seems to be willing to do anything for Luoluo. Yanxiangluo raised her head and saw Jizhong's blooming smile. Her already peerless handsome face seemed to be shining brightly. She was immediately tempted, and she couldn't help but kiss him on the chin. There is no other way, she is so tall that she can only kiss his chin. Jizhong, who was already in a state of happiness, felt the soft touch on his chin. He felt as if he had been electrocuted, and his phoenix eyes burst out with an unprecedented brightness. Jizhong lowered his phoenix eyes and looked at the red lips of the person in his arms. If there was any sense left there, he lowered his head and kissed her. At this time, it seemed that they were the only two people left in the world, and both of them deeply felt the beauty of love for the first time. Wuji finally came back after a busy day and night. As soon as he came in, he saw the two of them kissing each other. He was so shocked that he suddenly stopped and flapped his wings and almost fell to the ground, which also woke them up. Even though she was seen by the spirit beast, Yanxiangluo was embarrassed and buried her face in Jizhong's arms. Jizhong rolled his eyes at Wuji, who felt aggrieved. He knew that it was not the right time to come back, so he immediately covered his eyes with his wings to show that he had not seen anything. Jizhong felt angry and amused that there was no 300 taels of silver here. I thought you would never come back once you left. Wuji is even more aggrieved. This is the inner continent. The city lord's mansion is so easy to enter, and the news about his precious son is so easy to find out. Does the master know how dangerous this trip is? Isn't it because I have disturbed his good things? No matter how powerful you are, you still have to listen to the mistress. Dark eyes looked at Yanxiangluo from under the wings from time to time. Jizhong's words made Yanxiangluo forget about being shy, and she finally remembered what she had forgotten last night. Didn't Wuji go to the city lord's mansion to check for news? Why did he come back at this time? He immediately forgot about being shy. He raised his head and looked at Wuji and asked Jizhong, hurry up and ask Wuji how the investigation went. Jizhong saw that the person in his arms had a rosy face, bright eyes, and moist lips. Well, this was all his own fault. He felt itchy and beautiful at the same time. No matter how itchy Jizhong was, he knew that he could not continue at this time. He looked at Wuji and asked, what did you find? Actually, he knew that it was not as easy for Wuji to check the news here as it was in the outer continent, especially in Xiangyang city, so he never bothered Wuji. Among the information they heard from the chatty government servant in the government office yesterday was the cultivation level of the city lord of Xiangyang city. It seemed that he had reached the peak of demigod last year. How could the guards of the mansion be weak for a person with such cultivation level? No matter how small Wuji is, no matter how fast he is, no matter how invisible he is still a spiritual beast, and he will be captured if there are fluctuations in spiritual energy. He is in contact with Wuji. Although it is a spiritual connection, Wuji will also have aura fluctuations. If it is exposed, it will be dangerous, so he has been waiting for it to come back. Wujijian's own master listened to Yanxiangluo's words and felt even more confident. You see, he knew that his mistress was good at what she said. It then put down its wings and communicated with its master's consciousness. Yanxiangluo waited quietly. After a while, Jizhong asked her to send Wuji into Pangu space. Ruanxiangluo was speechless. Is Wuji his spirit beast or her own? Thinking of Wuji and her group of people practicing together, well, she and Jizhong loved each other, and their spirit beasts were also. You have to get along well with each other. How is it? Yanxiangluo asked after sending Wuji into the space. Jizhong was about to speak when he noticed someone coming towards them. He immediately let go of Yanxiangluo and tidied her clothes and hair. Yan Xiangluo was stunned when she heard Feng Jiayan's voice coming from outside the door. "Master, breakfast is ready." Yan Xiangluo's eyes drifted towards Jizhong, and she saw Jizhong touching his nose uncomfortably, and secretly holding her hand with his other hand. Yan Xiangluo smiled. It turned out that someone was here, and he would be shy. After all, he was only 22 years old. If in that modern world, he had not graduated from college, but he could control a country and take charge of his own affairs. "Eat first, then talk later." Jizhong gave her a loving look. "Bring it in." Yan Xiangluo responded and looked at the sky. She had eaten breakfast a bit late and it would be time to have lunch in a while. Feng Jiayan walked in carrying a food box, followed by little girl Chen Jinwen. Little girl Jinwen was holding a tray in her hand, with bowls, chopsticks, spoons and other utensils on it. When I came in, I saw a large box of jewelry on the ground. I was stunned for a moment. The master actually had so many jewelry. When my mother combed her master's hair just now, she only had one hairpin. The two of them walked in, saluted first, then walked to the table, placed the food and bowls and chopsticks, and also served the rice and soup for them. Then the two stood aside, waiting for instructions. Yan Xiangluo was not used to having people waiting on her. Jizhong was used to it before, and Yan Xiangluo knew that she would have to get used to such a life in the future. Without saying anything, he sniffed with his beautiful nose, looked at the delicious food, and glanced at Feng Jiayan with some surprise. This cooking skill is indeed extraordinary. The impurities in this food are almost negligible. Although the food she cooks has no impurities at all, that is because she is an alchemist and has integrated alchemy into it. The flames are also it is not comparable to others, but Feng Jiayan is not an alchemist. Jizhong smelled the aroma of the food and knew that Feng Jiayan's cooking skills were indeed good. His little girl finally didn't have to cook by herself. He had thought before that he would find a chef with strong cooking skills for Luoluo in the future, so that she would not have to do the cooking herself. Unexpectedly, he bought one by accident. He was a little confused. Since Feng Jiayan's cooking skills were so good, how could she still be sold? And the price is so low. Although the price is much higher than that of ordinary slaves, it is simply impossible to sell a spiritual chef with such strong cooking skills, so there is only one possibility. Before, Feng Jiayan has never revealed that she can cook. Du Dainu and Chen Moran knew that she was good at cooking, which meant that they had known her before and helped her hide it. When Chen Moran asked his wife who the girl should buy, he was actually asking if Du Dainu and Xuanhuan would be willing to sell to the same family as them. The people they sell to are all very clever. Yan Xiangluo took a bite of the dish. Well, it tasted good. Your cooking skills are indeed good. Yan Xiangluo praised her from the bottom of her heart. Feng Jiayan's cooking skills were even better than those of the chefs from the big restaurants she had eaten at along the way. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 412. Feng Jiayan bowed her head and said, "Thank you, Master, for your compliment. My mother-in-law comes from a family of skilled cooks. I learned cooking at the age of 6 and have been cooking for more than 30 years. I wish Master likes me." Yan Xiangluo was a little surprised when she heard this. She started learning cooking at the age of 6 and has been studying it for more than 30 years. That does not mean that she is over 40 years old. Since her skin condition was not very good due to her military service, she really didn't have it before. It shows their age. Alas, I forgot that the lifespan of monks in higher continents is longer than that of monks in lower continents, much more. Let alone dozens of years old, people who are hundreds of years old are still considered young people. It was then that she realized that her and Jizhong's lives had been lengthened because they came to the higher continent, and she suddenly felt very happy that they could stay together for a long, long time. Feng Jiayan has always looked calm. It seems that her heart has been badly hurt and has closed the door of her heart. Yan Xianglou thought that the people they bought were all slaves, and she really needed to understand their respective situations, otherwise, don't cause any trouble because of them. Looked at Zhizhong with his big almond eyes, it was better to leave this matter to him. If he had to do it himself, he would have to spend money to find out the information. The two of them had dinner together. Feng Jiayan's cooking skills were indeed good, and Yan Xianglou ate a lot. Zhizhong was also in a good mood because of the rapid development of his relationship with Yan Xianglou today, so he also ate more. Feng Jiayan stood aside, and her heart dropped when she saw that her master was satisfied with the meal. Although she was confident in her cooking skills, these two young masters were not unskilled people. Coupled with the torture of these 3 years of service, the previous pride has long been put away, and now it is impossible to get rid of the status of a slave for the rest of his life. Only by serving a good master can he live a more comfortable life. As for remuneration, she had never thought about it. She was involved in her husband's family, and her relationship with her husband was not good, and her husband's family was not good to her. They only married her to use her as a cook. Fortunately, her husband's family did not disclose it to anyone because they were concerned about their face. She said her cooking skills were excellent, so she was able to hide it for the past 3 years. Even though her husband's family was in trouble, she was implicated, but she felt very relieved about it. After the accident, her parents-in-law did not lend a helping hand. In fact, as long as her parents-in-law came forward to ask for a divorce letter, she would not have to endure this. However, her parents-in-law not only failed to help her, but also swore an oath to sever ties with her. They were just trying to force her to do so. She died, and she knew the reason was that her cooking talent was better than the child they liked. Her heart has become cold. The reason why she is still alive is because she does not want to fulfill their wishes. Jinwen, put the jewelry back and put it next to the dressing table. Seeing the two of them standing aside, Yan Xianglou looked at her jewelry box and said to Chen Jinwen. The little girl immediately responded and went to clean it up, very carefully, for fear of damaging any piece of jewelry. Yan Xianglou asked Chen Jinwen to pack the jewelry, which was also a test for her. No woman could refuse any of these jewelry. Chen Jinwen was only 9 years old, how could she not like it, but she liked normal and greedy, that's not advisable. Chen Jinwen was serving by her side. Although they were bound by slave marks, except for Chen Moran, no one else had sworn any loyalty to them. The slave marks on their bodies only proved that they were of low status and were not directed against a certain family or family. There is still a difference between people's loyalty and slavery. Although she didn't know why Zhizhong didn't mention this matter, she knew that he had a plan in mind. When it came to controlling people's hearts, no one was better than Zhizhong. But she is still used to checking the character of the people around her in her own way. Therefore, when Chen Jinwen was packing her jewelry, Yan Xianglou used mind-reading skills on her. Little girl Chen Jinwen has been feeling emotional in her heart. This jade bracelet is so beautiful. Wow, this belt is so exquisite. This is the first time I have seen so many exquisite jewelry. The lady is really too rich. I have to be careful not to damage the jewelry. Mother said that you should serve the lady with all your heart and not have any bad thoughts. Until the tidying up was completed, little girl Chen Jinwen had no intention of taking the jewelry as her own. It seemed that her parents were sensible people and they taught their children well. Although one trial can't explain anything, at least for now, Chen Moran's family of 4 are all people with a moral bottom line. After the two of them finished eating, Feng Jiayan and Chen Jinwen neatly cleared the table and left. Zhizhong took out a box of tea leaves and asked Feng Jiayan to make tea. When Feng Jiayan opened the box and saw the spiritual energy contained in the tea leaves, she was shocked. These two young masters had extraordinary origins. As a spiritual chef, she naturally knows how precious food that contains very rich spiritual energy is, and not something that ordinary people can have. The male master casually took out a box of tea leaves for her to use. It can be seen that this thing is not a rare thing in his place. Feng Jiayan cooked the tea quickly and sent it over. Yan Xiangluo and Ji Zhizhong looked at each other after drinking the tea. Yes, no matter how good the spiritual tea is and how strong the spiritual energy is, it requires someone with superb tea skills to brew it. And if you want to brew it, once the spiritual energy of the spiritual tea has been unleashed, it needs to be boiled, which will test your strength even more. Therefore, Ling Chu may not necessarily have good tea skills, but Feng Jiayan is good at them all, which shows that her talent is indeed very strong. Yan Xiangluo was extremely happy. From now on, she could finally drink tea with strong spiritual energy and eat delicious food with almost no impurities without having to do it herself. What did Wuji find out? Yan Xiangluo did not forget the most important thing, which was related to when she could find her parents. Ji Zhizhong knew that she was anxious, so he directly told her the news that Wuji had found in a concise manner. The city lord's mansion is heavily guarded. There are 10 people with god-level cultivation and above. There are 4 god-level people secretly guarding the young master's courtyard, so it took Wuji a long time to get in. Yan Xiangluo frowned. She thought that the city lord's mansion was more difficult to enter than those on the outer continent. She didn't expect that there were 10 people with god-level cultivation. The young master of Xiangyang city is indeed very ill. There are 6 alchemists with medical skills in the city lord's mansion. They are all guarding his house. They are now unconscious and Wuji cannot get close to him. One of them is a god-level practitioner. Just stay by his bedside. In order to find out the cause of young master Xiangyang city's illness, Wuji has been staying in the house to find out the news. He was injured during a training session 3 years ago. He was seriously injured at the time. Even after taking god-level elixirs, he could not be cured. He has been like this since then. At the beginning of this year, the city lord invited the most beautiful person from Yun's Hang Palace. The famous alchemist only allowed him to recover for half a year. Wuji couldn't find out where the injury was, and the people in the mansion didn't know it. The city lord did a good job of hiding it. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 413. Chapter 413 Momentum. After Yan Xiangluo heard this, most of them were about the situation in the mansion, and there was not much valuable information about the condition of the young master of Xiangyang city. It seems that if you want to know the specific situation, you can only go to the door and see the person Ruan Xiang understood. Ji Zhidian nodded and said, "That's true. Do you want to go?" Go. Yan Xiangluo responded without any hesitation. Everything you do carries a certain degree of danger. Since you can't find any traces or news about your parents, you can only let them come to you. If you want them to know that you have arrived in the higher continent, there is only one way, and that is to become famous in the higher continent so that they can hear your news no matter where they are. With her current age and cultivation, it would take a long time to become famous through her cultivation, so she decided to use her medical skills to become famous. Although she is very confident in her medical skills, this is a fantasy world after all. People's bodies are not only suffering from real illnesses, but also caused by various reasons. She doesn't know whether she can heal the patient without seeing the specific condition of the patient. However, with the spiritual spring water, even if she can't cure diseases and injuries, a drop of spiritual spring water can almost cure it. Hence, the chance of success in this trip to the city lord's mansion is still very high. Ji Zhizhong is not worried about whether Yan Xiangluo can heal the young master of Xiangyang city. He is worried about whether he can protect Luo after she becomes famous. And his people haven't arrived yet, so he alone can't make a comprehensive plan. He can only follow her to protect her. Although she has Pangu space, it must not be exposed unless absolutely necessary. When are Luoluo going? Xuanhuan asked. Since I have decided to go, I naturally have to go as early as possible and go now. Luo was determined. Although she lives in two worlds, neither life is easy. Therefore, she has developed the habit of making her own decisions since she was a child. Many times, there is no time for her to hesitate. Therefore, she also learned to make the best decision for herself in the shortest time. Decision. Judian nodded and said, I'll go with you. The time is indeed just right now, it's not yet noon. Kong would not let him go alone. Although there were rumors that the lord of Xiangyang city was a lord who cared for the people, no one knew what the real situation was. Hong, who has been in a high position for a long time, knows the human heart best. Even the most selfless and noble person has weaknesses that he cannot touch. Luo and Hong got up and walked to the front yard. Chen Moran had just returned from outside and was packing things with Han. When he saw the two of them going out, they immediately greeted them. Master, do you need a carriage or horses? Chen Moran asked. Han also came over. He had been arranged before. If the master needed to accompany him, he would follow. Luo was surprised. Do they have carriages and horses? Then I realized that Chen Moran should have bought them today. After just one night, it really felt like home. Hong said, we are going to the city lord's mansion, we don't need carriages and horses. The place where they lived was not far from the city lord's mansion, and parking was not allowed there at will, so the two of them planned to walk there. Chen Moran was very surprised. Although he felt that the life experience behind the two young masters might be unusual, he already knew today that this courtyard had just been bought, or that the mistress bought it alone. Obviously, it was not like the one from the city lord's mansion. Why is there someone involved who suddenly wants to go to the city lord's mansion? At this time, Chen Moran didn't know that his two masters came from the lower continent, otherwise he would be even more surprised. Although he was doubtful in his heart, he followed his duty and did not ask questions that he should not ask. Do you need to accompany us? Chen Moran asked again. No need, Hong answered simply. Chen Moran saw that the two masters were going to the city lord's palace. They didn't need carriages, horses, or people to accompany them. What were they going to do? He said nothing and walked aside with Han to see them out of the house. Tian Gaiu, who was responsible for guarding the gate and guarding the yard, immediately came out of the concierge and opened the door. The three of them stood at the door of the house to see the two of them off. After closing the door, Han and Han looked at each other. Tian Gaiu said, Brother Chen, do you think highly of these two masters? Chen Moran glanced at him, what else do you have in mind? They are all serving in the same place. They have helped each other for 3 years to survive well. He can protect his wife and children with the help of Tian Gaiu and Han. Naturally, he also understands their character, so he is here. When Hong asked him to choose people, he chose the two of them. When Hong agreed to bring his wife and children with him, he had already decided to follow his master for the rest of his life. However, after all, they are all convict slaves, lower than ordinary slaves. Their fate cannot be chosen by themselves. They will not be seen and will stay in the same family forever, and they are likely to be sold. He has made an oath. As long as he does not betray his two masters and does things carefully without any accidents, he will only have these two masters in his life. He understands that a loyal servant does not serve two masters. This is also the main reason why it is difficult for slaves who have been sold several times to have their masters trust them. But Tian Gaiu and Han are different. They just violate the slave mark and can be bought and sold at any time. It is normal to feel uneasy, but they cannot have bad thoughts. He is loyal to his master and must do good things for him. When he chooses people, he must ensure that they are loyal to his master. If there is any second-mindedness, he will nip it in the bud. Although they helped him take care of his wife and children, he had helped them no less in the past 3 years. Therefore, he did not owe them anything. To put it more clearly, in fact, they were helping each other, and there was no telling who owed it to whom. Tiangai immediately waved his hand. Brother Chen's words are a bit harsh. Since I decided to come here with Brother Chen, I didn't think about it. What I mean by asking this today is that the master has his own people and he means to listen to the master. It's coming soon. As slaves like us, will the master give us the opportunity to do something good? Although they are all slaves, regardless of their previous status, they do not want to be buried like this because of their cultivation. He has nothing to worry about anymore. If he can achieve something, he doesn't care about his identity. Chen Moran glanced at Tiangai and then at Lu Chunhan. Do you also have such thoughts? Lu Chunhan nodded. Brother Tian and I are both people who have been abandoned. Now we have become slaves. It is impossible to get rid of the status of slaves in this life, but even as slaves we can still achieve something, otherwise we will be like this. What's the use of cultivation? Although monks all strive to ascend to the final goal, there are a few people who have successfully ascended throughout the ages. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 414. They are different from Chen Moran. Chen Moran was implicated by his family and became a slave. They committed crimes because they were bullied and cruel. They were real slaves. They knew the consequences when they did it. Therefore, they felt right in their hearts. There is nothing to complain about his situation, unlike Chen Moran who still has a family feud on his mind. Therefore, no matter what their status is, they all want to make some achievements to let those who once looked down on them know that they are also powerful and capable people. Chen Moran understood. Like you, I only saw the master yesterday. Based on my intuition, I feel that the two young masters are definitely not in the pool. If you want to make a difference, you must do your best now. Yes, although the master is young, he is a very successful person. As long as you have strength and ability, the master will not waste talents, but he also likes people who are down to earth and willing to work hard. Seeing that the two of them were still a little confused, Chen Moran reminded them again, didn't you notice that the two masters don't care about these trivial matters in the house? For things like purchasing, they didn't care about how much they spent or whether they were greedy. Although it was a sign of trust in him, it also showed that the master was informal and not a stingy person, nor was he someone who focused on such mundane things. That's true. Tiangai and Lu Chunhan naturally discovered this. Then do you know why the master doesn't care about these trivial matters? Chen Moran asked again. The two of them looked at each other for a moment, and Tiangai said, because they have more important things to do and are not willing to waste time on such trivial matters. Chen Moran smiled. Yes, the two masters have such cultivation at a young age, and their strength is definitely not only their cultivation, but also their character is incomparable to many older people. Do your best. You have to do small things first, then you have the chance to do big things. There was only so much he could remind you. With their level of cultivation, guarding the door and doing odd jobs in the front yard were indeed overqualified, but people who can really do great things are those who can endure what ordinary people cannot. If you even look at if you can't do this little thing well, who will let you do more important things? Even though it seemed that the two masters had not paid attention to them from last night to now, he could guarantee that the master would know what they had done. He knows this, and after believing what he said, the two of them can understand it too. Sure enough, after what he said, Tiangai and Lu Chunhan both suddenly realized and thanked each other in unison. Thank you, Brother Chen, for your advice. Chen Moran smiled and said, we are all in trouble together and came out together. It is our fate to serve the same master. Now it is the best result for us. We must be content. After all, it was not the master who caused us to be in this situation. On the contrary, it was the two masters who pulled us out of the quagmire. The master only asked us to be loyal and diligent. As long as we act according to these 4 words, we will not go wrong. Chen Moran's words made Tian Gaiu and Lu Chenhan's uncertain hearts calm down. At this time, Ji Zhikong and Yan Xiangluo had arrived in front of the Lord's palace in Xiangyang City. As expected, it is a city lord's mansion in the inner continent, which is quite different from the city lord's mansion in the outer continent. Even the Lu family's mansion in Tusui City is only slightly larger than the city lord's mansion, but in terms of grandeur, it is far inferior to the city lord's mansion in Xiangyang City. There were no guards outside the door, but as soon as they stopped in front of the door, someone came out and glanced at them, with a look of surprise in their eyes. After all, men and women with such outstanding looks are so rare. Who are you? You can't stay here. Leave quickly. Although they were amazed by their appearance, this was the city lord's mansion and his duty was not to let people stay close. Yan Xiangluo said, I am a doctor. I just came to settle in Xiangyang City yesterday. I heard that the young city lord was ill. The city lord issued a notice offering a reward for doctors, so I came to try. The guard was a little surprised. This little girl looked to be just around the age of hairpins. Even if she had medical skills, how good could she be? The doctor from Yun's Hang Palace could only make the young master better for half a year. Is she capable of curing the young master? Are you sure? The guard asked. Yan Xiangluo nodded and said, I'm sure, my medical skills are pretty good. The corner of the guard's mouth twitched. Although you are good looking and the city lord is not a difficult person, if you really don't have the ability to anger the city lord, you will not be able to bear the consequences. However, he can't say these things. The city lord has spoken and all the doctors who come will be brought in to try. After all, the young master is very serious this time. He has been in coma since yesterday morning and has not woken up now. You come in and wait while I go in and report, said the guard. Yan Xiangluo and Ji Zhihong walked inside together. The guard stopped Ji Zhihong and said, he can't go in. Yan Xiangluo said, it's not convenient for me to be a woman. He is my fiancé. If he can't go in, I can't go either. The guard found some reason after hearing this, but he had no power to let people in. You come in first and wait in the foyer. I'll report back. If the city lord doesn't agree, you have no choice but to go back. The guards did not embarrass them. Yan Xiangluo quickly thanked him. From the attitude of the guards, it could be seen that the lord of Xiangyang City was indeed not a person who oppressed the people. The guards brought the 2 people in and arranged them in the foyer. There were 3 guards in the foyer. Although they were equally amazed by their appearance, they did not have any bad intentions. They only looked at them a few more times and then looked away. Talking to himself, Yan Xiangluo and Ji Zhihong sat aside and waited quietly without speaking. The guard who went to report the matter came back soon. You guys come with me. Yan Xiangluo and Ji Zhihong stood up and followed the guards and walked inside. The guards led them to a door. A more gorgeously dressed guard came out. He glanced at the 2 of them and said, is that them? The guard replied, yes, the woman is a doctor and the man is her fiancé. The guard inside nodded and said, follow me. The 2 followed the guards into the door and walked inside. The door behind them was closed. Along the way, they passed 4 doors and walked through 3 long alleys. From time to time, they could detect the strong aura of Cha in the dark. 10. No wonder Wuji only went back this morning. This is really a little trouble that can be discovered immediately. In front of the garden is a large garden with blooming flowers, winding paths, and delicate rockery pavilions and corridors. After walking through the garden for a while, we came to a quiet courtyard. There was a wooden plaque hanging on the courtyard door, with dragons and phoenixes on it saying Black Bamboo Garden. When Yan Xianglou saw the name, she thought that there should be a lot of black bamboo planted in this yard. The fragrance falls ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 415. Chapter 415, not optimistic about her. From the name, I feel that the owner who lives there should be a gentle and elegant person. The guard knocked on the door, and someone immediately opened the door. It was a man dressed as a woman. Seeing the guards and the people immediately moving away from the door, the guards looked back at them and said, "Come in, this is the young master's courtyard." Yan Xianglou and Ji Zhizhong walked in. Yan Xianglou thought that after entering the courtyard where the young city master lived, they were almost there. However, they took a long detour before they came to an exquisite building with flying eaves and warped walls surrounded by inked bamboo. In front of the house, every scene along the way can be described as low-key luxury. Ji Zhizhong, who is used to seeing the wealth of the palace, doesn't think it's a big deal. After all, no matter how luxurious a city lord's palace is, it can't compare with the palace. Since Yan Xianglou lived in an ancient building in another life, she didn't think it was a big deal. The guards who led them were a little surprised by their reaction. After all, the young master's courtyard was specially built by the city lord after the young master was born. The area is second only to the city lord's courtyard. Unexpectedly, it is more exquisite and luxurious than the city lord's yard. The two of them were not surprised or shocked at all when they saw it. Obviously someone who has seen bigger scenes. "Wait a moment, I'll go in and report," the guard said to the two of them. Yan Xianglou and Ji Zhidian nodded and stood under the eaves to avoid the scorching sunshine in the sky. Ignoring the four guards and a well-dressed middle-aged man standing under the eaves of the corridor opposite them, the guards entered, and the voice of report came out immediately, "Lord of the city, people have arrived." "Let them in," a man with a deep voice said, and you could tell from the first glance that he was a man of high cultivation. Yan Xianglou and Ji Zhizhong looked at each other. It turned out that the lord of Xiangyang city was here, and he really loved his son very much. He was guarding him personally. The door opened again, and a maid came out to invite them in. The maid was stunned when she saw Yu Xianglou's appearance. She thought to herself, "Is this young woman here to treat the young master or to seduce the young master?" It's no wonder she has such thoughts. The main reason is that Yan Xianglou's appearance is so outstanding that any woman will feel ashamed of herself. In addition, the young city lord does have the talent and family background to attract women. "Come in," the maid said calmly. Yan Xianglou didn't pay attention to the maid's attitude. Growing up, there were so many women who were jealous of her beauty, and she was used to it. After following the maid in, he saw a huge screen. The screen was dark green and carved with pieces of bamboo. This shows how much the owner of the house loves bamboo. After walking around the screen, I saw 5 people standing and 2 people sitting in the room. One of them was older, sitting on the bed. He had a strong aura and a pair of sharp eyes swept over them after they entered. "This should be the god-level strong man in the room," that Wuji said, "the person who protects the young city lord." There was a man lying under the brocade quilt on the bed. His hair was disheveled and his face was pale and bloodless. He must be the sick young city lord. With his exquisite facial features, even though he was sick, he could still tell that he was a handsome man. Sitting on the chair next to the bed was a man wearing a black brocade robe with a calm expression. His appearance was similar to that of the patient on the bed. He should be the lord of Xiangyang city. On the other side stood 3 maids and the guard who went to welcome them in. It seemed that he should be the young city lord's attendant. The man sitting in front of the bed, the city lord of Xiangyang city, glanced at them. He was obviously surprised by their outstanding appearance, and then frowned. At such a young age, how good can a genius be in medical skills? There was a flash of disappointment in his eyes, but his tone was still gentle. He looked at Yan Xianglou and asked, "Are you a doctor?" Yan Xianglou took a step forward and said, "Yes." Come over and treat my son. The city lord didn't ask any more questions and went straight to the topic. Yan Xianglue walked over, and as she got closer, she could see clearly how pale the man on the bed was, with no blood at all. This face was obviously caused by excessive blood loss. He said to the city lord sitting aside, "City lord, I need to diagnose the pulse. Let someone come over to help and expose the young city lord's wrist. People say that my son must be the city lord, and he is the only one who can speak in this room," so Yan Xianglue said directly to the city lord. The lord of Xiangyang city was stunned. He didn't expect that she could talk to him so calmly even after knowing that he was the lord of Xiangyang city. With a deep thought in his eyes, he personally took out his son's wrists from the brocade quilt and rolled up his sleeves. The whole process was very gentle, which showed that he really loved his son. "Can I use a brocade handkerchief?" Yan Xianglue didn't want to touch someone's skin directly. Not to mention worrying about the other person's suspicion of what she was doing, she couldn't stand even Ji Zhong's gaze. It was hard for her to ignore the burning gaze on her back. Sure enough, when she said this, the heat in her anxious eyes dissipated a little. Upon hearing this, the city lord immediately understood what she meant and immediately asked his maid to get a new piece of silk. The maid immediately went to get it, but there was no small piece. She directly cut off a small piece with scissors and put it on the young city lord's wrist. Yan Xianglue turned around, looked at it, and said to the maid, "Bring that round stool over here so I can use it." The maid was stunned. She didn't expect that Yan Xianglue would ask for a stool to sit on. She glanced at the city lord, who nodded. The maid immediately moved the round stool over, and Yan Xianglue sat down unceremoniously. The expressions of everyone in the room changed. The city lord was sitting aside. This little girl actually dared to be on an equal footing with the city lord. She was very courageous. Yan Xianglue didn't think much about it at all. The young city lord was seriously ill and the time to feel the pulse would not be too short. She was too tired to bend down to feel the pulse. She is not someone who would wrong herself. After Yan Xianglue sat down, she stretched out her hand to feel the young city lord's pulse through the snow-white satin. When she felt it, she frowned and moved her fingers before she found the pulse. So weak? If it weren't for her high medical skills, she wouldn't be able to feel her pulse. Yan Xianglue's fingers moved from time to time, and time passed little by little. A quarter of an hour passed, and she was still feeling the pulse, and she hadn't changed hands yet. She was still checking the pulse of her right hand. Even Ji Zhong's face turned serious. She had quickly taken off his pulse when she was treating him. The young city lord's condition was indeed very serious. Otherwise, it would not have happened. The alchemist with the most powerful medical skills in Yunzhang Palace only allowed him to recover for half a year. I don't know if Luoluo is sure. The city lord on the side was always staring closely at Yan Xianglue. Her expression did not change. She occasionally frowned and relaxed, showing how frequent and complicated her thoughts were. The city lord of Xiangyang city, who has read countless people, can see that she is serious and does not seem to be cheating. At first he was not optimistic about the little girl in front of him, but at this moment the lord of Xiangyang city suddenly had a glimmer of hope. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 416. Chapter 416. He is here and I am here. The elderly man who had been sitting on the bed could clearly see Yan Xianglue's every move and the subtle changes in her expression. He was shocked in his heart. A teenage girl could actually be so calm in front of two god-level powerful men. This character was not ordinary. She looked like she was really capable. He didn't know how her alchemy skills had never been seen before, but this medical skill was definitely not low according to his eyesight. Therefore, a glimmer of expectation arose in my heart. So many doctors could not cure the young master. If this girl really had this ability, it would not only be a reward from the city lord, but also a reputation that no one could match. After all the famous doctors on the mainland have been invited, and no one knows what is going on with the young master, let alone a cure. Think about it, the one in Yunzhang Palace can only make the young master good for half a year. The so-called good is just not comatose and able to move. If she could really heal the young master, no, even if she could make the young master wake up, her medical skills would be superior to that of the one in Yunzhang Palace. After all, that one said that there was nothing he could do if he fell into coma again. Yan Xianglou didn't know the inner activities of the two god-level experts in front of her, and focused on studying the condition. She learned medical skills not only because she was in poor health in another life, but because she really liked it, and because of her talent, her medical skills were extremely high. However, in addition to being unable to cure herself, this was the first time she encountered such difficult symptoms in these years. Unable to heal herself, she didn't know why at the time. After her soul returned, she found out that it was because her soul was incomplete. The soul is not completely healed no matter how high her medical skills were in another life, but it is different here. Not only does she have powerful medical skills, but she also has the soul control skills passed down from the Long family. So if she can heal herself in another life now, she can do it. Hence, the condition of the young city lord of Xiangyang City can be regarded as the most difficult symptom she has ever encountered. On the surface, the ischemia appears to be quite severe. If you take a pulse, it will be so weak that you can hardly feel it. This kind of pulse only exists in people who are dying. However, although the young city lord's pulse showed that he was near death, his vitality was not that of a dying person. She could clearly feel that the vitality in his body was continuously distributed throughout his body. It is said that he was like this because he was seriously injured 3 years ago. However, she did not see that his body was seriously injured 3 years ago. Yan Xianglou was sure that he was not injured at the time. The other hand, Yan Xianglou finally spoke. The god-level powerhouse sitting inside immediately took the young city lord's hand out of the quilt and put it on the quilt, so that Yan Xianglou could reach out and feel his pulse. Yan Xianglou picked up the silk satin and put it on her other wrist, and continued to check her pulse. Another quarter of an hour passed before Yan Xianglou let go of his hand and said to the city lord, "Let the irrelevant people go out." The city lord stared at her after hearing her words, knowing that she was telling him that anyone who didn't trust him or didn't want others to hear what she said next should get out. The city lord looked at her, looking at him with calm and fearless eyes, narrowed his eyes and raised his hand, letting everyone in the room go out, except for the attendant. All the maids went out immediately. The attendants glanced at Zhizhong, and Yu Xianglou said, "He's here and I'm here." 4 words express what she means, that is, unless you don't need me to see a doctor, he has to be here. Zhizhong was very happy about these 4 words of Rong Xianglou, but he didn't show it on his face and stood aside calmly. The city lord's eyes flashed. These 2 children are not ordinary children. Who has the ability to cultivate such outstanding people? He nodded and signaled his attendants to move a chair for Zhizhong to sit on. The attendants immediately moved the chairs and asked Zhizhong to sit down. Zhizhong was not polite and continued to do so. Every move he made was noble and unparalleled, as if he was a superior. The city lord of Xiangyang City thought for a moment, and then he raised his hand to set up a barrier, blocking outsiders from hearing the voices inside. "You can say it now," said the lord of Xiangyang City. Yan Xianglou then said, "I would like to hear the beginning and course of the young city master's illness first." Before the city lord could speak, Yan Xianglou said again, "I want to listen to the truth. Don't say that he was seriously injured to act like this. He was not seriously injured at all. I'm sure of this. I'm very confident in my medical skills." Confidence, not to mention the injuries he suffered 3 years ago, even the injuries he suffered when he was a child, I can tell by checking his pulse. The city lord's eyes changed, and there was unconcealable shock in his eyes. He looked at each other with the old man inside, and the other man was obviously also surprised. Even the attendants on the side were stunned and looked at Yu Xiongluo with incredulous eyes. The lord of Xiangyang city knew very well that apart from his son, only the two of them and his son's attendants knew the reason for his son's behavior. This girl actually found out by checking his pulse. Such a confident tone shocked the two of them, but they also saw hope. The lord of Xiangyang city looked at Yan Xiongluo for a while before he said, "What's your surname, girl?" "My surname is Yu. If you are polite, I will be polite too. I heard that Miss Yun just settled in Xiangyang city yesterday." The city lord of Xiangyang city thought that Yan Xiongluo's surname was Yunke Yun. Yan Xiongluo nodded, "Yes." "Can I ask which continent and city Miss Yun lived in before?" the lord of Xiangyang city continued to ask. In fact, he could ask someone to go to the government office to check this information, but wouldn't it be inconvenient now, so he asked directly. There are only two kinds of people who can know the real cause of his son's illness. One is a person with really superb medical skills, and the other is the person who harmed his son in the first place. 3 years have passed and I still haven't found the person who killed my son. People from the lower mainland wanted to settle in the inner continent, so they came to the southern continent. I heard that the people in Xiangyang city lived a happy and prosperous life, so they settled here. Yu Xiongluo's words shocked the lord of Xiangyang city and the old man inside again. Inferior continent? These two children are actually from the mainland below. How they came out of the Musui continent was not as simple as what she said. If they wanted to settle in the inner continent, they could just come to the southern continent, and they even came so far to settle in Xiangyang city. These two people are quite capable. After all, they are people who have experienced a lot and have seen the big world. The two of them quickly calmed down and asked the lord of Xiangyang city again, "Miss Yun, are you sure you can heal my son?" "It depends on whether you cooperate or not." Yan Xiongluo's tone was calm, without any disturbance at all. This is the first time that the city lord of Xiangyang city has met a junior who can talk to him so calmly. The most important thing is that he is from a lower continent and has no feeling of inferiority at all. I knew in my heart that these two people probably had high status in the lower continent, especially Miss Yun's fiancé. At the same time, they also knew that they were definitely not the ones who harmed their son. After all, his son was murdered 3 years ago and they came this year. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 417. The lord of Xiangyang city finally made a decision and sighed, "Miss Yun, then I will tell the truth, but you also know that since the truth was not told to the outside world at the beginning, it means that the facts cannot be made public. If Miss Yun cannot be cured, my son, you should know that I will not leave you two alive. Of course, if Miss Yun can cure my son, she will be the benefactor of my Mu family. Not only the reward on the notice, but also a promise to you. I will help you complete one thing within the scope of my strength, as long as it does not violate the rules of heaven and does not provoke Yun's Hang Palace." From his promise, Yan Xiongluo and Ji Zhizhong both grasped the message that no one dared to challenge Yun's Hang Palace's status on the mainland. Yan Xiongluo did not reject this free promise. She knew in her heart that the lord of Xiangyang city was threatening and tempting, and the methods he used were fair and above board. Let her know that if she can't be cured today, her life will be lost. With beautiful apricot eyes, he looked at the lord of Xiangyang city. "Now that I'm here, I have confidence in my medical skills, and I'm not in the habit of risking my own life. My life is not what the Lord said." The confident and arrogant words made the lord of Xiangyang city stunned for a moment, and then he laughed. "It seems that my son's luck has come." Yan Xiongluo said seriously, "This sentence is true." Chateau Lord Xiangyang city suppressed his laughter. Then let me city lord see Miss Yun's superb medical skills. Then the city lord must tell the truth. You must know that a slight mistake can be fatal to the patient. The young city lord's body has been treated too many times, covering up many of his original illnesses. Therefore, the city leader needs to tell me his situation in detail so that I can treat him accordingly. Yuan Xiongluo spoke first. He didn't know what to use to test himself. He didn't have the energy to compete with him, and it was his son who suffered in the end. The city lord of Xiangyang City admired Xiongluo in his heart. The little girl was calm, decisive, confident and wise. She could not be frightened or coaxed. If she didn't have a fiancé, she would have wanted to keep it for her son, even though the age gap was quite a bit. But for people with high cultivation level, the age difference of more than 10 years is nothing, which is a pity. 3 years ago, my son went to a secret place for training and was assassinated. I don't know who did it or how. When he found out, he felt drowsy and sleepy. At the same time, people kept assassinating him. Of the guards sent to protect him, only 3 of them came back. My son fell into a coma after he came out. I called many doctors but they didn't know what happened to him. I asked the doctor to tell him that my son was seriously injured. You didn't say that my son was not injured. You were the first doctor to see that my son was not injured. Although they didn't find anything, they finally woke him up. He was in a coma for a month after that. It's getting longer and longer. He was in a coma for 3 months last year and didn't wake up. I invited the most skilled doctor from Yunzhang Palace to wake him up. This time it lasted for half a year, and he suddenly fell into a coma again yesterday. The city lord of Xiangyang City told what happened, but there was no valuable information at all. Yan Xiongluo asked the attendant to tell him how he realized that he was being plotted in the secret realm. The attendant said, "We didn't notice it. It was the young master who found that he was always sleepy and felt something was wrong. There was an alchemist who knew medical skills accompanying him, and nothing was found wrong. However, the young master's drowsiness became more and more serious. Sometimes he walked, we suddenly fell asleep while walking and realized that we were being plotted, but we couldn't remember any suspicious people or things, let alone how we were plotted." After Yan Xiongluo heard this, he glanced at the young city lord lying on the bed and said, "It is indeed a conspiracy. You can't find anyone who suspects it because the other party doesn't have to show up at all." "What do you mean?" Xiangyang City's lord asked with a sharp look. Yuan Xiongluo said, "The young city lord has lost his soul." "What?" The lord of Xiangyang City suddenly stood up in shock. "The son's soul is lost? Are you sure?" The pressure on Xiangyang City's city lord poured out unconsciously. Yan Xiongluo hurriedly said, "The city lord should restrain his pressure." Only then did the lord of Xiangyang City realize that his pressure was spreading, and he quickly restrained his pressure and looked at Yan Xiongluo, waiting for her answer. "I'm pretty sure that part of the young city lord's soul has been lost." Although Yan Xiongluo has never used the soul control technique since leaving the Long family, she still has this confidence. As long as she uses the power of soul control, she can see people's souls. But before, she could only see a whole human form, but now if a person's soul is complete, he has 3 souls and 7 souls, and she can see each soul. See clearly. But the young city lord only has 1 soul and 1 soul in his body. The lord of Xiangyang City suppressed his anger and asked, "How many were lost?" Someone actually plotted against his son's soul. If he knew who the other person was, his life would be worse than death. Young city lord only has 1 soul and 1 soul in his body, Yan Xiongluo said. The lord of Xiangyang City swayed. He had 3 souls and 7 souls, but his son actually only had 1 soul and 1 soul. He lost 2 souls and 6 souls. No wonder he always felt sleepy. When he was awake, he was not as smart as before and was always in a daze. "How are you sure?" asked the lord of Xiangyang City. "He is not an ignorant kid, and it is obvious that he is not a simple person to reach this height. There must be enough reasons to convince him. Yan Xianglou naturally cannot say that she knows the art of soul control, so if she wants him to believe her words, her reason must be strong enough. City Lord, please sit down. How did I figure out that it's a bit troublesome to say it out loud? Please be patient and listen. Yuan Xianglou made a gesture of invitation. Only then did the city lord of Xiangyang City realize that he was not as calm as a little girl. After sitting down, he said, "Please ask Miss Yun for some advice." This is already a very polite and humble statement. Yan Xianglou smiled and said, "I am a doctor. A real doctor has to learn many and complicated things. I will explain to you how I saw it in a way that you can understand." Miss Lao Yun, the lord of Xiangyang City, is now very polite to Yan Xianglou, just because he knows that this little girl is really capable. It doesn't matter the age, as long as a person has real ability, he is worthy of respect. The old man sitting on the bed also looked at Yu Xianglou with an expression of attentiveness. We monks all know that people have 3 souls and 7 souls. However, monks only know that there are 3 souls and 7 souls, but they don't know that the 3 souls and 7 souls are closely related to the 5 internal organs of a person. Yan Xianglou combined her medical knowledge with the knowledge of soul control in this life and explained it to them. Even Ji Zhizhong was very interested. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 418. The heart stores the spirit and controls people's life activities. The lungs store the soul, and the liver stores the soul, which is related to people's many thoughts. The spleen stores the mind, and the kidneys store essence. Essence can be transformed into marrow, and the marrow leads to the brain. Therefore, kidney deficiency will affect people's memory. These words of Yan Xianglou let the lord of Xiangyang City know that her medical skills were indeed extraordinary, and these words alone were something he had never heard before. The 3 souls are Fei Guang, Xuanling, and Yu Zheng. Fei Guang governs life and is the light of life, which determines the quality of a person's body. If there is a problem with Fei Guang, he will be sick and his life will not be long. Xuanling is the noble one and is the source of wisdom. Light determines a person's wisdom, and wisdom determines how blessed a person is. People who are born with disabilities often have a weak or disabled spirit. It is the light of the spirit that determines a person's preferences. Yan Xianglou's explanation is simple and easy to understand. Even if they don't know medical skills, they can understand it immediately. The 7 souls are corpse dog, fuya, bird yin, swallowing thieves, non-poisonous, removing filth, and smelly lungs. Corpse dogs show human reactions, fuya governs the digestive function, bird yin governs reproductive functions, swallowing thieves is the cleanliness of human beings. System, non-poisonous is the internal regulating function of the human body, removing filth controls the body's excretion, the smelly lung controls people's breathing. Both the soul and vitality are hidden in the 5 internal organs. The vitality here is not the vitality cultivated by warriors, but refers to the power in the human body that allows you to live healthily. The soul is yang and the soul is yin, and the soul is yang within yin. The soul is the yin in the yang, the soul is the essence of the yang, and the soul is the form of yin. If you lose the soul, you will lose your health. The young city lord's face is pale and bloodless, indicating that he is on the verge of death. However, there is still vitality in his body, which means that he has only one soul, which is the fetal light. The lethargic energy cannot support daily life, which means that his soul is seriously lacking. He can breathe but can't do anything else, so it is inferred that the remaining soul of him should be the stinking lung. In other words, even if the young city master does not receive treatment, he can still live with the soul embryo light and the stinking lung, just like the living dead. Same. Yan Xianglou stopped when she said this. She felt that this was enough for them to understand why they knew that the young city lord only had one soul left. The room was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop on the floor. Yan Xianglou was not in a hurry. After they slowly digested the information, they would naturally understand the seriousness of the matter. Ji Kong's phoenix eyes fell on Yan Xiongluo's body with burning eyes. His little girl was really amazing. He had known about her superb medical skills before, but he had never felt so directly that her medical knowledge was so profound. How did the little girl learn it? Got this medical skill? How come he doesn't know that there is such a doctor in Tianqian continent? I didn't even know there was such a powerful medical book handed down from generation to generation in the world. A while passed before the Lord of Xiangyang City said, Miss Yun is indeed knowledgeable and talented, and her medical skills are so strong. I, Mu Jinzi, admire her. He was telling the truth. He could see the 3 souls and 7 souls of a person through the 5 internal organs so clearly. He was sure that the little girl in front of him was definitely the best in the world. Yan Xiongluo's lips twitched. Are you impressed? She hasn't shown her true abilities yet. I, Wan Xiongluo, am also honored to be recognized by the city lord, Yan Xiongluo said generously. This sentence not only thanked the lord of Xiangyang City for his recognition, but also admitted that he was indeed capable, but made the other party not feel disgusted. The lord of Xiangyang City was most concerned about his son's condition. He asked, Can Miss Yun cure my son's condition? In fact, he knew very well that this situation was beyond the ability of the doctor to solve, so he asked this question cautiously. If Yuan Xiongluo cannot be cured, he doesn't know who to call. Should he go and ask the heavenly master? Nowadays, the famous celestial master on the mainland is not easy to invite. The most important thing is that since his son's soul has been taken away, there must be a heavenly master behind it. He doesn't know who his opponent is, so how can he guarantee that the heavenly master he invites is not from the opponent's side? Therefore, he still placed his hope on Yan Xiongluo. Yan Xiongluo nodded, yes. Even though there was only one word, it made the lord of Xiangyang City burst into tears of excitement. How to cure it? He asked quickly. Calm down the soul and absorb the soul, Yan Xiongluo gave 4 words. When the lord of Xiangyang City heard this, he still had to ask the heavenly master. No one except the heavenly master could do this. Do we have to invite the heavenly master? The lord of Xiangyang City sounded anxious. Yan Xiongluo raised her apricot eyes and asked, Who told you that you had to invite the heavenly master? Who else can do this except the heavenly master? Xiangyang City lord asked in a daze. Master Xuanhuan. Yan Xiongluo rolled her eyes at him. Although it was easier for a heavenly master to do it, and it was easy for her to do it, what she wanted to be famous for was her medical skills, not the skill of controlling souls. Xuanhuan master, Xiangyang City lord was stunned. Why didn't he know that Xuanhuan master could also summon souls and absorb souls? Yes, it's not just the heavenly master who can summon souls and absorb souls, Xuanhuan master can also do it. All he needs is a mysterious pattern that can summon souls and absorb souls, Yu Xiongluo explained. The lord of Xiangyang City looked dim when he heard this. Where are such Xuanhuan masters? What he wants to say is that since the mysterious Xuanhuan family, the Ji family, was exterminated, there are still Xuanhuan masters with such high Xuanhuan skills there. Yan Xiongluo glanced at the lord of Xiangyang City in confusion, and then looked at Ji Zhong. Ji Zhong knew the mysterious pattern she was talking about, which was one of the highest level mysterious patterns in Ji Yin. He shook his head, meaning now is not the time to expose this. If there is another way, let's not use it first. Yan Xiang understood clearly that since she couldn't directly use the mysterious pattern to attract souls to solve the problem, she still had a way to indicate with her eyes that she could solve it. Ji Zhong was relieved. He didn't know how many abilities her little girl had. As a Xuanhuan master, he didn't even know that Xuanhuan master had such a great effect and could actually summon souls and souls. To be honest, when he saw this Xuanhuan master, he didn't pay much attention to it. Are all the Xuanhuan masters in the higher continents so weak? I thought that the legendary high-level Xuanhuan masters in the high continent could carve the Xuanhuan masters' patterns. Yan Xianglue looked very disappointed. Seeing what she said, the lord of Xiangyang city quickly rectified the name of the mainland. There used to be a member of the Xuanhuan family who could carve the tattoo, but they have been exterminated. I don't know if there are any descendants to pass it down. Although he said this, he thought in his heart that no one would pass on to others. After all, those people did a great job at the beginning. Ruan Xiang let out a sigh. Although the lord of Xiangyang city did not directly say the family name, she also knew that it should be referring to the Ji family. After all, they had seen some legends about the Ji family in the historical records. The Ji family was at that time, but it is truly a first-class family in the high-class mainland. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 419. It doesn't matter. Even if I don't have such a high-level Xuanhuan master, I can still solve it, but I still need the help of the Xuanhuan master. It doesn't matter the level, as long as I can carve 8 of the Xuanhuan I mentioned. Yan Xianglue continued. Road. The lord of Xiangyang city's eyes lit up. Miss Yun said, which 8 mysterious patterns are these? I will let the mysterious pattern master prepare them right now. Bring a pen and paper, I'll write it down. The city lord can ask someone to prepare it. This method requires conditioning the body of the young city lord first. He has taken too many pills in the past 3 years, and there is a lot of erysipelas in his body. In addition, his soul is incomplete. The body is very weak and it will take at least 3 days before the Xuanhuan can be used. It will be fine if the Xuanhuan is prepared before then. Although there is a way to solve it, it is a bit more troublesome. The young city lord must first recuperate his weak body that has been injured by pills over the years, otherwise he will not be able to bear it. This would have a better effect. If she healed the person immediately, it would appear that his illness was not serious and could be easily solved. Upon hearing this, the lord of Xiangyang city immediately asked his attendants to prepare pens, inks, paper and inkstones. Yan Xianglue walked to the table, wrote down the required mysterious patterns, and then listed the required medicinal materials. She could not give these out. Although she has it all, she is not willing to give it away. Naturally, she will not be short of the master of the city. Xiangyang Cheng saw the free and easy fonts in the show, and she had another layer of understanding of her people. Look at people and their characters. From a person's characters, you can see her character and the way she conducts herself in the world. What is written on this piece of paper are medicinal materials, which are used to condition the body and make elixirs. I need them now, Yan Xianglue specifically told the lord of Xiangyang city. When the lord of Xiangyang city heard this, he took it and saw that it was all in the house. He immediately asked his attendant to go out with the medicine list and ask the housekeeper to get it. Yan Xianglue walked back to the bed and said to the old man inside, "Senior, please expose the young city lord's wrists and ankles. I need to give him acupuncture to stabilize his existing soul." The old man raised his eyes and glanced at her. He was indeed very courageous. He actually dared to instruct himself. Although he used honorifics, he didn't hear much respect. He just talked like a normal person. He didn't know that in fact, Yan Xianglue still respected him, but she was not afraid of him, but more envious of him. After all, if she reaches the god level cultivation level, she still has to pass the final hurdle of Pangu flower blooming. She doesn't know what will happen then and when she will reach the god level. The old man glanced at her, then looked at the lord of Xiangyang city. Seeing him nodding, he started to expose the young lord's wrists and ankles. Yan Xianglue took out the needle roll and opened it. It was the same set that Ji Zhong had refined for her. The lord of Xiangyang city couldn't help but take a closer look. She actually knew the legendary silver needle technique. This was an eye-opening opportunity. The needles fell from the hand, and in a moment, 3 silver needles fell on the young city lord's wrists and ankles. The long silver needle was still trembling, and the 2 god-level experts were dumbfounded when they saw it. It just felt like a play. After Yu Xiang fell and applied the acupuncture, she sat down on the stool in front of the bed and waited. The lord of Xiangyang city glanced at Yan Xiangluo and said nothing, just stood aside and waited. After a while, the attendant who went to fetch the medicinal materials came back, and at the signal of the lord of Xiangyang city, he left it directly for Ruan Xiangluo. Yan Xiangluo took a look at the medicinal materials, narrowed her eyes, then looked at Xiangyang city lord, and then at the medicinal materials. The lord of Xiangyang city was not a slow person, and he immediately understood that there was something wrong with this medicinal material. His eyes turned cold, he turned around and asked the attendant calmly, "Who gave you the medicinal materials?" The attendant was stunned. When did the city lord care about such trivial matters, and immediately replied, "The steward asked Mulu from the warehouse to get it for me." "Who else is present?" Xiangyang city lord asked again. The attendant shook his head and said, "There is no one else. I am standing outside the treasury. There is only Mulu inside." He nodded to the city lord of Yangcheng and said, "Go and see who the tattoo masters are and ask them all to come here." The attendant immediately responded and went out. After he went out, the lord of Xiangyang city immediately asked, "What's the problem with the medicinal materials?" Yu Xiangluo poured out all the medicinal materials in the kinkan bag and piled a small pile on the ground. "None of the medicinal herbs are usable, and there are demon elixir powders from fire-type monsters on them. The city lord should know that if people who are not fire-type take the demon elixirs from fire-type monsters, their spiritual roots will be destroyed. And the young city lord is not a fire element spiritual root, she has already figured out the pulse." When the lord of Xiangyang city heard this, his anger rose in his heart. It turned out to be a domestic thief. No wonder he couldn't find the person after 3 years of searching. The lord of Xiangyang city put away the medicinal materials and said to Yan Xiangluo, "I'll have people prepare it again." As soon as he finished speaking, he walked outside and came back after a while, apparently asking someone he trusted to get the medicinal materials. Yan Xiangluo was not in a hurry. Anyway, Xiangyang city was everyone's territory. It was not easy to get some medicinal materials without disturbing anyone. In fact, these medicinal materials can still be used. After all, her 5 elements beads, fire beads, and flames can purify these fire-based monsters and demon pill powders, but she cannot do this. She must let the lord of Xiangyang city know that there is a problem with these medicinal materials. As for other problems, she just ignore it. As the lord of a city, he naturally understands what is going on. Anyone who dares to do anything under his nose must be someone who knows him very well. If she didn't see the problem with the medicinal materials today, and she didn't use the flames of the 5 element beads of the fire element to make the elixir, the consequences are not certain. If she eats her to make the elixir, something happened to the elixir he prepared. Even if he had a remedy, would the lord of Xiangyang city still be so grateful to him? When the time was up, she took off the silver needle, and the old man who had been sitting on the bed felt that the young master's body was much more energetic. Even the pale face seems to have some color. How effective are these silver needles? Yan Xiangluo stood up and said to the lord of Xiangyang city, "Please arrange a place for us to stay for treatment, and then arrange for someone to go to my house and let us know. We will go back in 3 days." The lord of Xiangyang city was thinking about how to keep the person here. He knew there was something wrong with the medicinal materials just by looking at her, and he was looking forward to her alchemy skills. Since it would take 3 days, it was impossible for him to let Yan Xiangluo leave. Unexpectedly, Yan Xiangluo had offered to stay, so he didn't have to worry about it. He regretted the little girl's intelligence again. How could such an outstanding person get engaged so early? But her fiancé was also an outstanding person. He had no chance to pry her over. My son's yard is very big and there are many rooms. How about the two of you staying here? If it hadn't been for the medicinal materials, the Lord of Xiangyang City might have arranged for them to live in other guest houses, but now he is worried. Only his son's yard was safe. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 420. Chapter 420, I'm not too small-minded. Even if he were the owner of the city and this mansion, he couldn't guarantee that the people behind it wouldn't attack the little girl. Now that Yan Xiangluo is his only hope to save his son, he naturally wants to protect her life. It doesn't matter if Yan Xiangluo lives there, but she still cares about Ji Zhong's thoughts. He glanced at Ji Zhong and asked, Zhuzhong, okay. Ji Zhudian nodded and said, okay, let the people who go home to inform you bring Du Dainu to take care of your daily life. It's not that she has to be served by someone, but that this is not his own home. He doesn't feel at ease when there is no one to serve Xiangluo. He doesn't feel at ease when people in the city lord's palace serve her. He can't take care of her personally, so he can only let his own family come. Du Dainu is just right. After all, he came from a big family, and his upbringing and rules are beyond the comparison of ordinary servants. Yan Xiangluo nodded, looked at the Lord of Xiangyang City, and informed her of her home address. The Lord of Xiangyang City immediately arranged for someone to notify and bring back the person they wanted. Anyway, nothing will happen under their noses. Yan Xiangluo reminded her to bring back the medicinal herbs and send them to her place of residence, and then she and Ji Zhong got up and went to the accommodation arranged for them. Although the rooms the two live in are not together, they are not far away. They are on both sides of the bamboo forest. As long as they let go of their spiritual consciousness, they can clearly sense each other's aura. Moreover, it is very close to the young city lord's residence. It is just a short turn away. Convenience is only one of the reasons. The most important thing is that there is a god-level powerhouse in the young city lord's room, and there are two god-level powerhouses secretly guarding the outside. Worrying about what their two clan-level cultivators do can also serve as a way to monitor them. The Lord of Xiangyang City is not that easy to trust people. Even if he sees what Yan Xiangluo is capable of, he will not trust her wholeheartedly. Yan Xiangluo and Ji Zhong sat at the stone table beside the bamboo forest outside the house for a while. They chatted for a while. They didn't say a word about the young city lord's condition or the city lord's mansion. They were all about their plans for the yard they just bought. It wasn't until the medicinal materials were delivered that Yan Xiangluo took the medicinal materials and went into the room to refine the elixir, and Du Dainu also arrived. Seeing that the two masters actually lived in the young city lord's yard, she understood that the masters were here to treat the young city lord's illness. She also knew something about the young city lord's illness. She heard about it when her husband went out to buy things this morning. She was a little worried. Does the master have such strong medical skills at such a young age? Whether it can be cured or not, it is certain that the master is a doctor and an alchemist. How did the master learn so many skills at such a young age? Ji Zhong was still sitting on the stone bench by the bamboo forest and did not go back to his room. Du Dainu stood respectfully aside in the room and did not disturb Yan Xiangluo's alchemy. At this time, the city lord of Xiangyang City was reading the messages from Yan Xiangluo and Ji Zhong, and he was even more shocked. The Twilight Continent young master Lu Yu pursued and intercepted them so vigorously, but the two of them actually successfully arrived at the southern continent and settled in Xiangyang City. He still underestimated these two people. There is not much information about the two of them, but the less information there is, the more he feels that they are not simple. Just because the two of them can come to the southern continent intact, how can they be simple? You know, Lu Yu still doesn't know that the beauty he is looking for is no longer in the Twilight Continent. And her surname was Yun, not Yun. He didn't care about this surname. After all, no powerful person or family with the surname Yun had appeared since ancient times, but he had to pay attention to Zhizhong's surname. Zhizhi, that was the surname of the Xuanhuan family in the mainland. Although Zhizhong was actually a lower-class mainlander, and the occupation recorded on his identity card was an weapon refiner, there was no guarantee that the blood of the Ji family would flow to the lower-class continent. Yan Xiangluo and Zhizhong discussed what profession to choose on their identity cards. In the end, Yan Xiangluo chose the alchemist and Zhizhong chose the weapon refiner. The lord of Xiangyang city had a plan in mind. If Yan Xiangluo really saved his son, he wouldn't mind helping them. Even though Zhizhong was a descendant of the Ji family, although the Ji family was a very difficult matter, Zhizhong my family's Xuanhuan is also an existence that everyone in the mainland is afraid of. Being able to make friends with Master Xuanhuan is also a matter of luck. Besides, in name, he only helped Yan Xiangluo, who saved his son. If something really happened, it would not be difficult for him to withdraw. Don't tell him that kindness is priceless. She, Xiangluo, saved her son and made a promise to reward her, so she no longer owes her anything. Besides, if she healed her son, it would be of more than just benefit to her. The one in Yun's Hang Palace couldn't do anything about it. If she healed him, it meant something. It meant that her medical skills were higher than that of him. She took advantage of the opportunity to treat her son and became the #1 doctor in mainland China. This was the greatest benefit she received. Thinking of this, the lord of Xiangyang city narrowed his eyes. I am afraid that this is her real purpose. The lord of Xiangyang city was shocked. This girl is not old but has a big heart. Even if she succeeds in treating her son, I don't know if she can handle such a big hat or wear it. After all, they have no family support behind them and they are not very young. If that family really wants to covet them, can the two of them withstand it? The master of Xiangyang city didn't know that Zhizhong thought about this, and he had already begun to prepare. If he couldn't even protect his beloved woman, is he still a man? City Lord, Miss Yu's elixir has been refined, the housekeeper announced from outside. The city lord came back to his senses and asked, have you brought it over? The steward said, Miss Yu must personally deliver the elixir to the city lord. No one is so careful, even he, the steward of the city lord's palace, doesn't trust him. The city lord smiled and said, let's go over and see how good the little girl is at alchemy. The housekeeper thought of the good-smelling elixir fragrance surrounding the room where Miss Yu lived, and felt in his heart that even if the grade was not high, it was definitely not low. The housekeeper followed the city lord to the young master's yard. When he came to the place where Yan Xiangluo lived, he saw that the door of her room was open, but she was not in the room, but sitting at the stone table next to the bamboo forest. She was talking and laughing with her fiancé Zhizhong, who looked at her lovingly. From a distance, the two of them seemed to be a perfect match in appearance and temperament. Zhizhong saw the city lord coming and alerted Yan Xiangluo. Yan Xiangluo turned around and saw the city lord and stood up. Zhizhong also stood up. The city lord came over and said to the two of them, sit down, you're welcome, just treat yourself as your own home. He then sat down between the two of them and looked at the tea on the stone table. It was the best spiritual tea in the house for entertaining guests. He turned to the butler and said, go and get a box of the spiritual tea I drink to replace it. The steward immediately responded and went down. Immediately, the city lord said, Miss Yu, has the elixir been refined? End of this chapter.